Please, Lord, forgive me for my sins, because here I come. Black people, what the fuck are we doing? 30 people got shot at a fucking block party this past weekend. I mean, I know it ain't nothing new, but 30? It sounded like we are our own fucking worst enemy. You can't make an argument about Black Lives Matter if the majority of people killing black people sending out the message that we don't. We can't fucking just get mad at white people or the boys in blue for killing us. We so outraged, right? But when one of us get killed, nobody say shit. Ponder on that. What the fuck are we doing? We got enough people in this country trying to take our rights, make laws against us. But hey, we killing each other.
Let me address something to some of the haters out there about me. Y'all can kiss my ass. Twice. And I'm talking about the people, I'm talking directly to the people in the industry who sat up there and said, why isn't Stephen A. gone? Ladies and gentlemen, we got a few people at ESPN getting paid more than me. They don't have the #1 show. They don't have the top ratings. They don't generate more revenue. How come y'all didn't bring their names up? And by the way, none of them are black. How come you didn't bring their names up? I wonder why. I'm talking to those folks, the critics in the media, or the wannabe medias with the blogosphere and the websites that never went through the terrain of being official members of the fourth estate. I'm talking about them. How come y'all didn't bring them up? But me, who's been #1, who's got the top rated show, who by the way is an executive producer on that top rated show, my name comes up. I'll leave that for y'all to handle. But never worry, never fear. My name might come up sometime in the near future for all I know. Others have been bought out. It's not beyond the realms of comprehension that I could be next. I understand that from a historic perspective, from a systemic perspective, white America's hands are not clean. I get all of that. We talked about this with the affirmative action rule last week. We understand that. But in the end, what it comes down to is this: gun control or no gun control. Who the hell's pulling the trigger? And if you're so quick to pull it against one another, how the hell do we possibly have a future? These are our children's lives that are being taken away. Talk about teenagers. Talk about teenagers getting smoked while chilling at a block party. Chilling at a block party. It's just getting worse and worse and worse. And you have to pay attention to the numbers because the numbers are dwindling. And you have to pay attention to the numbers because what's going on in our society. Let me give you another stat because I want you to pay attention. Okay? I want you to pay attention. Because see, because there are black folks dying, but it's a double whammy. Because it's black folks dying at the hands of black people, and when black people are killing you, eventually they're going to get caught. And when they get caught, they're going to contribute to the 1.9 million incarceration rate that presently exists right now. How do I know this for sure? Did you know there's 1,566 state prisons in the country right now? Did you know there's 98 federal prisons in this country right now? Did you know that there's 3,116 local jails right now? Did you know that there's 1,323 juvenile correctional facilities? Who the hell do you think they're building it for? Do I have to direct you to the docuseries or the documentary that was 13 on Netflix, directed by Ava DuVernay? You want to go look it up. You can lament the history of this country and how systemic racism and prejudice and all of this other stuff played a role in how black folks and crimes were criminalized to such a degree because you know what? It was modern day slavery. Slavery, the eradication of it was supposed to take place in 1865, so they had to come up with a different way to throw us in jail. Yeah. All true. Nothing false about it. But completely irrelevant when it comes to us shooting one another. What that got to do with a black person pulling out a gun and willing to shoot into a crowd filled with minorities, filled with people who look like them, that share their hue, their pigmentation, their cultural identity, and everything else in between? What that got to do with it? You gonna call it out or not? Because society's coming. Have you been paying attention? Have you been paying attention? Just last week, we sat on this show and we talked about the rulings by the Supreme Court to eradicate race as a consideration from college admissions. People are up in arms about that. And I'm like, you ain't see that coming? You see that coming? Yeah, no, I did. That was coming. Clarence Thomas didn't hit that last year, didn't flat out state last year that he was coming for that? That the state Supreme Court was coming to address all of those things? Last year it was Roe v. Wade. Women's right to choose, gone. Oh, gun control. We're going to alleviate those concerns. We're going to loosen those gun restrictions. So much so that when you look at states by state right now, you're talking about constitutional carry states. That means you have the right to carry concealed weapons without even a permit. Do you know there's now 26 states that have that license? Let me read them to you. Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Maine, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, New Hampshire, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, Vermont, West Virginia, Wyoming, and just this past Friday, Florida, the state of Governor Ron DeSantis. You now don't need a permit to carry a concealed weapon. Obviously, the lessening and the leniency as it pertains to the gun laws contributed to that. So even in states with the strictest gun laws, California, New Jersey, Connecticut, Hawaii, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, and New York, you go elsewhere. There's 26 states right now. That's what they did last year. This year, in a span of days, they addressed affirmative action. They elevated the religious rights of folks with the woman who didn't want to serve a gay couple. I forgot whether it was with a cake or something for their celebration. She didn't want to do it. And she earned the right to do it through the Supreme Court. What do you think is next? Ever heard of diversity, equity, and inclusion? It's called DEI. You ever heard of that? If you haven't, you should. You know why? Because before it was college admissions. But now within the same ruling, you're going to have a situation where corporations, particularly those that employ 15 or more people, can be under the same rules as public institutions. I tried to tell y'all this. I'm just looking at it. Fair admissions applied the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause to Harvard and other private universities by way of Title VI. That section of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination on the ground of race, color, or national origin by any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Title VII of the 1964 Act, as Justice Neil Gorsuch notes in his concurring opinion, applies the same anti-discrimination principles to private businesses with more than 15 employees. They are liable for damages if they discriminate on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. So if you're white, if you're Asian, if you're Hispanic, whatever, and a private industry with 15 or more employees decides that they're going to favor somebody else, and by virtue of doing so discriminate against you, they're no longer protected. Everywhere you turn, Folks are coming. As a result, we need all the help we can get. We need each other. We need each other living. We need each other breathing. We need to uplift one another, to galvanize, to inspire and motivate. We need to make sure that our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed, that our eyes are wide open and we can see the forest from the trees. Not smoke one another and take one another out, and damn sure not be quiet about it. But that's what a lot of people want. You want the Stephen A's of the world to shut the hell up. And I'm not talking about the white community. I'm not talking about the Hispanic community. I'm talking about my own community. Oh, don't say anything. Why we pointing that out? Why we're talking about it? Because we're dying. That's why. We're killing one another. That's why. You got black people scared to go in their own damn communities. I remember last year watching television, and we had black folks in Chicago calling for martial law. Calling for the National Guard to come in and help out local law enforcement just so they could go home safe at night. Are we supposed to be quiet about that? We ain't supposed to say anything? We just supposed to look at race? We supposed to point the finger at white America like we ain't culpable? That's what we supposed to do? Nah. I'm not doing that. As Snoop Dogg says, I ain't selling out, I'm looking out. We're not helping each other by being quiet and averting ourselves from holding our own selves accountable. Period. And you got right-wing networks and left-wing networks manipulating sound bites, grabbing a hold of it just so they can make their point or buffer their point. Bump all of that. This is about life and death. That's what this is about. This isn't a political issue, veering towards the right or the left. I didn't get into gun control. I didn't get into the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms. I didn't go there. I didn't favor one candidate over the other. I didn't go there. When I speak against Trump, I speak against him, not against Republicans. I speak against him because he doesn't know how to act. I didn't say anything about the right or left. I'm not policy driven and getting into the politics of the situation when I'm talking about this. I'm a black man. And I'm watching black folks evaporate before our very eyes. Excuse my language, and we don't say shit. Not a damn thing. Bump that. I'm not having it. I'm not being silent. I read you the incarceration rate. I read you the percentage of blacks incarcerated. I read you the top 5 cities with the highest homicide rates. All black. With the exception of St. Louis. And we know when a lot of deaths have occurred in St. Louis, they've been black folks dying. Albeit rightfully so, we lose our damn minds when one of us is killed at the hands of a white person. How the hell are we so silent when thousands of us are falling at the hands of our own? Steve Kerr said it best. When the hell are we going to do something? When the hell are we going to do something? When the hell are we going to do something? Wes Moore, the governor from Maryland, he spoke as well. But again, I'm not disrespecting and dismissing what he's saying. But I have to take it with a grain of salt. It doesn't mean you have to, though. Put up that quote. Let's see what he had to say. Governor Wes Moore of Maryland says, last night we saw yet another mass shooting strike our community, where a celebrity gathering turned deadly. My heart breaks for these victims, their families, and the Baltimore community that is coping with the loss. Maryland has had enough of watching gun violence continue to ravage our state and our nation. The fact that these horrific shootings continue to take place is abominable. We as a state will continue to do everything to prevent senseless acts of violence like the one we saw last night. Fair statement, I will credit him for not politicizing it. I'm not saying we don't need gun control in this country, because I certainly don't believe that people need to be walking around with concealed weapons without a permit or training. And I certainly don't believe that an average American citizen should be walking around with an, AR-15, AK-47, stuff like that. I don't believe in that. I do believe in Second Amendment rights. I do believe that you have a right to have a gun in your home. I'm not for the complete eradication of guns. I just want them policed better, that's all. But no matter which side you're on, this is about the side of human life. This is about Black Lives Mattering. Where's the noise? When are we going to do something? If a police officer went out there right now and killed somebody black, we'd be in an uproar. And rightfully so. If a white person or some wannabe cop who was white or Hispanic happened to shoot an unarmed black person, we'd be up in arms. And rightfully so. How is this proliferation and accumulation of flat-out, cold-blooded murder not causing the same kind of uproar? It's inconsistent. And when it's inconsistent, white folks and other folks in this country look at us with a raised eyebrow because the level of consistency is not there. And it gives them cause to challenge the authenticity of our argument, because we're not making an argument about Black Lives Mattering. We're only saying that when a black life is taken from somebody who's not black. But we ain't saying it when it's taken from those who are. And when you do that, you dilute the potency of our position. And the argument falls on deaf ears. And then everything that we want accomplished is like whistling in the wind. It's why racism has fallen to the bottom of the totem pole in favor of xenophobia, homophobia, transphobia. It's why affirmative action gets eradicated without a blink of an eye. It's how all the things that particularly affect our communities becomes a diluted issue. It's why diversity, equity, and inclusion is next. Because we don't matter as much as we should. Part of the reason is history and systemic racism that comes with it. The other part is the fact that we have some bad apples in our community who don't give two shits about us and would take us out without blinking. When are we gonna deal with that? When are we gonna deal with that? But on this particular day, even though I'm on vacation, it's hard to enjoy yourself when you hear the kind of news that we just heard. And I thought it was appropriate to start with Steve Kerr, the head coach of the Golden State Warriors, even though he was speaking last year in the immediate aftermath of the shootings that took place, the mass shooting that occurred in Uvalde, Texas. The reality is that it's apropos. It's apropos to bring that up now, because the level of rage, disgust, exhaustion, and exasperation that he obviously felt last year should be felt by all of us today, especially Black America. Now, I'm not going to sit up there and talk to you about everything that's going on in this country, because we understand that black people in this country aren't the only one with issues. There are shootings with white people taking place. There are shootings in the Latino community that are taking place. We understand all of that. Black folks are not the only ones dying. And we certainly have sensitivity to all human life, at least on this show. I can tell you that much. But I'm coming to you today as a black man because I alluded to this months ago, and I'm not going to back up from it now. It's an utter disgrace what's happening throughout the streets of America. And for those of you who don't know what happened as of this weekend, let me, articulate what has transpired. Sunday, 12:30 a.m., gunfire erupted at an annual neighborhood block party. A block party. Now, there are those of you who will sit up there and say, well, you know what, it wasn't a permit. They were having a block party without a permit. Shut the hell up. That's not the point. The point is that gunfire broke out during a block party. What was supposed to be a celebration ended up in 2 people dying because of gun violence and 28 people injured. 28. And by the way, I believe it was the 4th shooting this weekend. There was one that occurred in Wichita, Kansas, where 9 people were shot. There was one that occurred in Memphis, Tennessee, where 4 people were shot. And there was one that occurred in the Bronx, New York, where I was born, before being raised in Hollis, Queens, New York City, born in the Bronx, where 4 other people were shot. It's just one of many incidences that have taken place this year. There is no doubt about that. But we're going to talk about Baltimore, Maryland, just for a second here. We'll hear in a second from Mayor Brandon Scott, along with Governor Westmore, 2 African Americans that are overseeing the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland. But before I even get into that, 28 individuals wounded. 15 of them were minors under the age of 18 years of age. 15. 3 victims were 15 years old. 1 victim was 14 years old. 2 were only 13 years of age. This is what's going on in the streets of America. And like I said before, there's a lot of stuff going on throughout this country. And the most heinous thing that I could possibly imagine, I think about Uvalde, Texas. I think about Sandy Hook, where little children were executed. Okay? And nothing in life appears more egregious than that. But death is death. Violence is violence. And when the hell are we going to do something? Just like Steve Kerr said, when the hell are we going to do something? Hell with the vacation. How the hell can you smile and sit back and enjoy yourself with bullshit like this happening? This is unbelievable. It doesn't seem to end. And I'm going to tell you something right now. It's incredibly alarming to me. When we think about, I just made sure, because I want to make sure. And just for those of you who will question, where's he getting this information from? How about prisonpolicy.org? How about gunviolencearchive.org? Along with various other websites. I ain't making this stuff up. Now you might ask, Stephen A., excuse me, we understand you're a black man. We get the level of sensitivity that you may have. But still in all, death is death. And I understand that. I understand that. But as a black man, I'm going to stop there first. And here is the reason why. The Latino population, the Hispanic population, doesn't appear to be an endangered species. White folks in the United States of America, despite the fact that their populace has diminished to below 60%, to 58.9% to be exact, they don't appear to be an endangered species. Black folks are the ones making up 13.6% of the population in the United States of America. By the way, when I talk about the populace, did you know that in the United States of America right now, 38% of the 1.9 million people incarcerated in this country, according to prisonpolicy.org, 38% are white of the 1.9 million. That comes up to 722,000 for those of you who don't have a calculator in front of you. You know what the black prison populace is? 38%. Identical to the white community. The difference is that the 722,000 for the black community is subtracted from the 13.6% of the population in America. Whereas the 722,000 from the white community is of their 58.9% populace. Who's in more trouble? It would happen to be us. When are we going to do something? As Steve Kerr would say, when the hell are we going to do something? I got a whole bunch of numbers here. And I made sure to look it up because I didn't want people sitting up there like, hey, Stephen A., I mean, what does this have to do with anything? I want you to pay attention. I want you to understand this. I'm looking at some of the events, areas where shooting recently occurred. Baltimore, Maryland, block party. Hollywood, Florida. Allen, Texas, May 6th. Atlanta, Georgia, May 3rd. Dadeville, Alabama, April 15th, where 4 people were killed and 32 were wounded. It's the East Coast, it's the West Coast, it's the South. It's states with strict and stiff gun laws, and it's states with damn near no gun laws, as far as I'm concerned. We can bring up the proliferation of guns in this country, or lack thereof. We can bring it all up. The fact of the matter is, when it comes to black folks, it don't matter, especially with us, because we in a world of trouble. What are we going to do about it? As Steve Kerr would say, when are we going to do something? When are we going to do something? 28 people wounded for a block party. Gunfire breaks out. 2 gunmen on the loose. They don't know who they are. They're bloviating about we ain't going to rest until we find them, but we can't find any witnesses that know who the hell did all the shooting. And by the way, in the state of Maryland, I'd like to know what kind of argument can be made when they grade an A- on the Giffords gun law scorecard. I mean, states like California and New Jersey have a grading of A, so they have even stricter gun laws, but Maryland is no slouch in all of this. Maryland has some of the strictest gun laws, according to scoring an A- on the Giffords gun law scorecard. Gun purchases require a 7-day waiting period, and all handguns must be registered with the state police. Maryland also has a ban on assault weapons and large capacity ammunition magazines, as well as a requirement that all purchasers of handguns must complete safety training. In addition, individuals must be 21 years or older to purchase or possess firearms, and background checks are required for any transfer of ownership. Fine. Why the hell have there been 130 homicides in Baltimore this year? And over 300 shootings. Is that working for you? I don't know what the hell to say. I'm not blaming anybody, meaning the politicians. But I mean, damn. When you hear about those strict gun laws, and you hear about the fact that they're prioritizing it, when your mayor, who is 39 years of age, Brandon Scott, campaigns on making sure to what? Reduce homicides by 15% each year in his term. Getting them to below 300 homicides in his first year as mayor. Well, I think it's safe to say it ain't the greatest start in the world. I think that's fair to say. But before I go any further, let's highlight for a second from the news in Baltimore what exactly has transpired. Play that first clip for me, y'all, please.
Nikki, in that surveillance video, you can see dozens of people running through the street of that Brooklyn neighborhood. At one point, there are people that are actually ducking behind cars to take cover. Now, police telling us tonight that at least 9 victims remain in the hospital. The other victims have since been treated and left. They tell us that 15 of those victims are under the age of 18 years old. Police hammering down that message that they are not going to sleep until they find the person or persons responsible for this. And I do want to warn our viewers that what you are about to see and hear may be very disturbing. An $8,000 reward now on the table to help police track down the killers of these 2 victims, 20-year-old Kylis Fogbemi and 18-year-old Aaliyah Gonzalez.
If there is anybody near an AMBO with a white sheet that's available, I'm going to need it.
Police now releasing the ages of the 28 surviving victims of Brooklyn's mass shooting. 13 are 18 years or older, 15 are 17 years or younger.
There you have it. There you have it. And of course, we're going to hear the regular stuff that we always hear. And I'm not questioning the sincerity or lack thereof of a mayor or a governor. I'm just talking about the futility of words, which is why I started off this show by airing Steve Kerr's exasperation over yet the latest shooting. Here is Mayor Brandon Scott, and this is what he had to say in regards to the shooting that took place last night in Baltimore, Maryland. Listen to this.
Someone out there knows. And we want everybody who was out there, if somebody knows who did this, I don't care if it's the parents, the brother, the wife, the girlfriend of those who are responsible. We need you to say something. We need you to treat this as if someone had taken the life of your son, your daughter, your father, your brother. We need you to do that and step up and do the right thing. And to those who carried out the act, we will find you. We will bring you to justice. But again, this brings and highlights, not just for Baltimore, but for our country, the need to deal with the flow of illegal guns into our communities, especially from neighborhoods outside of them. We will continue to be focused on that here in Baltimore, but our country has to be focused on that as well.
I appreciate where he's coming from. Again, as a reminder, white folks make up 58.9% of the population. Hispanics or Latinos make up 19.1% of the population. African Americans, black folks make up 13.6% of the population. Yet white folks and black folks make up 38% of the 1.9 apiece, by the way, 38% apiece. White and black folks make up the 1.9 million people in the United States of America who are incarcerated. I got more stats for you before I get into what the mayor had to say. April 26, 2023 report from the Wallet Hub on top 5 homicide rates per capita by a city in the year 2023, which is now only 6 months old. Memphis is number 1. New Orleans is number 2. Baltimore is number 3. St. Louis is number 4. Detroit is number 5. Oh, by the way, Memphis, 64.6% black. New Orleans, 58.1% black. Baltimore, 61.6% black. St. Louis is just at 44.8% black. And then, of course, Detroit is at 77.9% black. You see where I'm going? You see where I'm going? They figured it out. They figured it out. Black folks are rendering ourselves an endangered species. We're doing this to each other. Now, I know that's not the popular thing to say. And there are going to be people out there, particularly from the African American community, that's going to be about the business of, you know what, why you got to go there? Because somebody has to. That's why.